welcome to another edition of Around the Valley, where the topics are real, but the points are completely made up. I'm your host, Weir, and the way the show works is we take several national and local sports topics and debate them for your viewing pleasure with a rotating guest of panelists. At the end of the show, I will arbitrarily award one of them with the People's Championship and give them 30 seconds of rant time. So before we get started, let's meet our panel. First, we have to my left a BC alumnus who is a former ESPN cover boy. Please welcome Greg Manakis.
Oh, thanks, Will. Great to have me here. Great to be here. You know, it's a great change of pace for my normal Wednesday night routine, which is to sit at home and watch episodes of The Voice on demand.
Well, thank you for that. And to his left, we have a senior here at UMass, the one, the only, Alex Scho, Schofield.
Thanks for having me, Will. I'm pretty excited to be here.
All right, guys, well, let's hop right into it. The first topic we have is going to bring us directly to Fenway Park, where despite being very early in the season, there already seems to be a lot of trouble in Beantown. Bobby Valentine has come in as the new manager of the Red Sox and has created quite a stir with several different major occurrences in the first couple of games. Recently, this past weekend, it began when he criticized Kevin Youkilis, all-star third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, by saying, quote, "I don't think he's as physically or emotionally into the game as he has been in the past for some reason. But it seemed, he's seeing the ball well, got those walks, got his on-base percentage up higher than his batting average, which is always a good thing, and he'll move on from there." That was a quote from Bobby Valentine to Channel 7 in Boston that aired Saturday night and was reported Sunday morning and caused quite a stir with Kevin Youkilis sitting out that Sunday. So, Greg, what I want to ask to you is, what do you make of these comments? Is Bobby V already losing some of the veteran members in this Red Sox clubhouse?
Listen, the one thing I have to say about Bobby V is that he is the polar opposite of Terry Francona. Okay, Bobby's opinionated, he's blunt, and it's well chronicled that his shenanigans have caused major rifts in organizations in the past, leading to his loss of employment in other organizations. Now, Tito was always going to go to bat for his players, always. Kept the same lineup. Whenever the media asked him questions, he always mentioned how he was going to stick with his guns, right? And now Bobby V, former ESPN analyst who trashed the Red Sox last year on ESPN, trashed Josh Beckett, trashed Carl Crawford, and now he's coming in here and immediately starts trashing Kevin Youkilis. I don't know how that's going to work out.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, he has a reputation of, calling out players that, have played for him, calling out, the teams that he's been a manager for, and this does nothing to help his reputation whatsoever. When you look at a guy like Bobby V, who's so outspoken, saying something like this to a guy who's a staple in, 2 World Series rings, it's not going to get you the trust and loyalty of your players. And something that Adrian Gonzalez said in spring training was, it takes time to build trust. When you lose that trust, you're not going to get it back. So when you come out here within the first couple of weeks of the season and you're firing at Kevin Youkilis, saying that he's not fully there, it's really, really hard for him to gain the trust back of his players at this point, I think.
Now, you mentioned Adrian Gonzalez's comments from spring training, and immediately after these Kevin Youkilis comments on Sunday, Pedroia immediately stuck up to Kevin Youkilis' aid and said, "That's not how things are done around here," and even alluded to Bobby Valentine's stint in Japan as to maybe that's how things are done on the other side. But what do you think to Pedroia immediately jumping to Youkilis' side? Does that show the team continuity that's been built with some of these veterans over the years? Or is this clearly going to make it a players versus manager type ordeal very early in Bobby Valentine's tenure as Red Sox manager?
And this is one thing that really had me interested when the story broke, is that Bobby V is coming into an organization where the superstars are already set. You know who the leaders in the clubhouse are, and obviously they didn't do a good job last year. But Bobby V needs a team that he can mold and shape to his personality, and he's not going to have that with the Red Sox. Okay, they're very used to the way Terry Francona used to manage them, which was laid back, supportive, and Bobby V's completely different. As I said, he's the polar opposite of Terry Francona. And if the Red Sox organizational plan is to change the whole face of the franchise and say that they're going to go away from the big spending of the past and start building more from the farm system up, then I believe that Bobby V is the good fit. But I think this is a one-year experiment, and if it doesn't work, Bobby V's gone at the end of the year.
And with that, you mean it's like Bobby V is going to come in and he's not going to be able to really mold these guys because, like you said, they're already superstars in the Red Sox organization. And if he wants these guys to completely change the way that they have been playing under Tito Francona, then he's not going to be able to get that to happen right away. But it seems like Ben Charrington came out and he took Bobby V's side on this issue with calling out Youkilis, saying that he thought that his statement was just misinterpreted, saying that he thought we weren't seeing the Youkilis of the past when he's coming out hitting 300 quickly. And I think that it's going to end up being the manager and the managerial side of the organization against the players, because they all love Tito, they all back Tito, and Tito had their backs. And I think coming out of the gate, we're seeing without Theo, without Tito, we're seeing a complete divide in the players and the manager.
Well, real quickly, of note, Youkilis, to Bobby V's credit, is only batting 176 to start the season with a 237 on-base percentage. So, real quickly, is this something that you think Youkilis will turn around? He's coming off a very rough spring training. So, do you think this is something that is going to turn around based off Youkilis' history, or is it something to watch out for?
Well, the thing about Uke is that he's been dealing with injuries in the past years. The number of games played, they've dropped considerably. 2007, 145, 145, 136. 2010, 102. 2011, 120. And there's been a steady decrease in his average when he peaked in 2008 with 312. So it could be the telltale signs of age. Uke is 33. He's not a spring chicken anymore. And he's well past his offensive and defensive prime.
He's a little banged up, too. And for his sake, I hope his numbers start going up, because this is an option year for him. He has a $13 million option at the end of the year. And there's this great prospect at third base in Pawtucket, Will Middlebrooks. He's hitting 363 right now. And if he does not pick up his game, they might not pick up that option and bring up this kid from AAA.
All right, well, certainly some things to keep our eye on here in the baseball season that is just underway, barely under 2 weeks old. Please tune in again to Around the Valley. I'm sure we will have much more to debate on those topics. Now, switching back to the UMass campus, the men's lacrosse team is in the middle of a phenomenal, magical season. They are 11-0 and ranked #1 overall in the NCAA. They have one final remaining game at Gillette Stadium this Saturday against Hofstra before they will enter the NCAA tournament. However, the buzz on campus has been to a minimum, if at all. So what I want to know is, especially from you, Alex, what have you been hearing around campus about this lacrosse team, and what are your thoughts on what the campus involvement has been towards this team?
Well, to answer your first question, what I've been hearing about it is I've been hearing nothing. There's not much talk about this team at all. And, this is the first #1 ranked team we've had at UMass since Calipari had Marcus Camby back in '95, '96. So for them to not be getting any credit at all is pretty ridiculous. I mean, they've beaten a #12 team, #11 team, a #14 team, and a #19 team, all in 11 games. So obviously they're playing good talent, they're winning big games, and they're just not getting any recognition. I think that's because the marketing department here is pretty subpar. They're not giving them a lot of credit. They're really not promoting the team at all. And I think for them to get the credit that they need and the recognition they need for being a #1 team, it all starts with promoting it from the school itself.
Okay, and as a contrast, Greg, what I want to know from you is, as a BC alum, is there anything that you can compare this to from your tenure when you were an Eagle? Any type of sport that was kind of under the radar? We know BC is a phenomenal hockey program, their basketball program down this year, but usually some of the major sports they've really flourished in. But a smaller sport like this, has there been any example that you could compare this to from your days as an Eagle?
Well, it's tough because being from Massachusetts, being from Boston, we're a city and a state that's dominated by an unbelievable stretch of professional success with the big four sports, okay? And then you have these college teams, and especially a smaller, less popular sport like lacrosse at UMass, and it's really tough to just gain any following from a fan base outside of the school. And as Alex was saying, even people at the school don't really know about the team. Now at BC, I know BC fans get a lot of flack for being quote-unquote super fans, which is kind of a slight at them, because we show up for big games. We'll go to the basketball games against Duke, against UNC, but we won't go to a good game against Wake Forest a couple of years ago when Wake Forest had 3 NBA players on the team, but no one really knew about it because no one really cared. And even the hockey team. When I was at BC, the hockey team, I would go to some of the games just because I was supporting the Hayes brothers from Dorchester, and I would go to a game here and there. But if it wasn't the Bean Pot, and if you weren't a sex-crazed jersey chaser, you probably weren't at the game. Well,
definitely a topic that we're going to keep our eye on here on Around the Valley, and we will have more from you next week after they finish up their season against Hofstra, and the NCAA tournament brackets will be set, and hopefully head coach Greg Cannella and the UMass Minutemen can make a long run into this tournament. Now, switching gears, we're going to move on over to the NFL schedule, which was released earlier this week, and especially considering the Patriots, based off of last year's results, they have the easiest strength of schedule at 45.3. On the flip side, the champion Giants have the strongest strength of schedule. So, guys, my first question to you is, what games for the Patriots jump out at you from this schedule?
Now, well, listen, I love football. I love the Patriots, but it's tough for me to get excited about the regular season after what happened in the playoffs last year. This is an organization that prides itself on championships. Okay, so if I had to say, just to answer your question, I'd say Week 5, is it, against Peyton Manning and the Broncos?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to that game, the rematch against the Giants, looking forward to that game, but I honestly don't really care. I really don't care. I want to see us win a championship, and if Tom Brady isn't hoisting the Lombardi Trophy over his head at the end of the year with the smile of a little kid who has supermodels on his wall instead of the self-assured smile of someone who's dating a supermodel, you know, then I won't be happy with this year. I want Tom Brady of old.
Well, I think every Pats fan wants Tom Brady holding up that trophy with the smile of a little kid. But, I mean, I'm excited for this little stretch towards the end of the year. They have 2 home games in a row, one against Houston, one against San Francisco. And I'm excited to see those 2 games because both of those teams play unreal defense. And I'd love to see how, up to that point, we don't really play many great defenses besides the Ravens. So I'd like to see how, against such a weak schedule, against such a weak AFC East, a weak NFC West that we play this year, I'd like to see how Tom Brady and that offense comes out and slings the ball against great defenses like Houston and San Francisco.
Yeah, as you guys have mentioned, some games to watch out for. The Patriots will host the 49ers, Texans, and Broncos this year. And on the road, they'll be at Baltimore and at the New York Jets on Thanksgiving, which should make for some great TV. But another thing I want to bring up, the strength of schedule. This early, we haven't even gotten to the draft yet. Does it really matter?
Scho, you want to go?
You know what? Part of me thinks wants to think it does. I don't really think it does. You see in the NFL, like I forget what the division is. I think it's the NFC East, where they have had the person who came in last has won that division the next year. I think it's the NFC East. I'm not sure, but just shows there's a lot of parity among the middle teams in the NFL. There's not much, you know. There's elite teams like you got your Steelers, you got your Patriots. You know, when Manning was on the Colts were up there. Now Green Bay, I think, is in that level. But before that, you know, or aside from those elite teams, there's a lot of parity right in the middle, and you see a lot of, you know, pushing around for position to fight for the, you know, wild card or fighting for divisions. So I don't think strength schedule this early really matters too much, but, you know, it's a good little basis to see who you're playing from, how bad, or who you're playing, who they were last year compared to where they could go in the future.
Yeah, and I heard that the last maybe 5 years or so, the team with the weakest schedule going into the year hasn't even made the playoffs. The Patriots had the second weakest schedule last year, and they ended up making the playoffs, but I don't know if that bodes well for our chances, but I think we're a good enough team where we're going to overcome that. But this season, for me, it really speaks about the individual stories that I'm looking forward to. I want to see Peyton in Denver. I want to see the RG3 Andrew Luck matchup, okay, whatever teams they end up on. I want to see Michael Vick. I want to see if he comes back with the magic that he had. Adrian Peterson, a lot of people aren't talking about him. He tore his ACL at the end of the year. Best running back in the league. Will he return to form? And I believe Trent Richardson is going to have something to say about that. Trent Richardson is going to be the best running back in the league this year and for the next 5 years to come.
Well, a bold statement for sure from one Greg Manakis on Trent Richardson, who, to be honest, we don't even know what team he will play for in the NFL. But on that note, the draft is coming up, so please tune in. We will have more on the NFL draft after it takes place and on the location of where Trent Richardson will become the next great thing in the NFL. Now, heading over to the NBA, it is just around the corner, a week and a half away until the playoffs, and I have 2 men on this set right now who I know are jumping at the bit to talk playoff basketball. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to head out to the West Coast. And Alex, the first topic I want to bring up is the #1 seed between San Antonio and OKC Thunder is up for grabs right now. San Antonio with a slight edge after last night's victory over the Los Angeles Lakers. Who do you see with the edge in this race, and who do you see this #1 seed being more valuable to?
I think, no question, OKC ends up with this #1 seed. And just in the past, you know, Popovich has never played his premier players going down the stretch when you know he's going to make the playoffs. Also, OKC they have 2 games against the Kings. They only play 1 good game in the last 5 games against the Lakers, who don't even have Kobe. So I think they come away with the #1 seed. But with that being said, I love the Spurs. They play unbelievable defense, and they just have such great team chemistry.
Do they have any playoff hangover from last year being that #1 seed and then being upset by the Grizzlies in the first round?
I don't think they do, just because Ginobili, Parker, Duncan, they're all proven playoff contenders. They've won championships together. They know how to get it done once it comes playoff time. I mean, this year, the 28-11 versus teams who are over 500, 20-9 against teams in the Western Conference playoffs. So, I mean, these guys know how to win. They know how to beat good teams. And I think every year I keep thinking, all right, this is the year they're going to be too old, and they just keep proving me wrong. And I think for once I'm not gonna say that I'm going to bet on the Spurs this time.
Yeah, well, I think the Western Conference the success of each individual squad is predicated upon the matchups. So if Oklahoma City gets the 1 seed, San Antonio gets the 2, we still don't know who's going to get the 3 or the 4, and Memphis is only a game behind the Clippers for the 4 seed, so which means there are only 2 games, game and a half out of the 3rd seed, right? So that's going to change a lot of things to the end of the year. These games mean something, which is something that hasn't happened in the last couple of years, and Popovich might actually want to avoid a tough playoff matchup with, say, the Grizzlies in the 2nd round, who they lost to last year. I think Oklahoma City, they need to avoid the Los Angeles Clippers, who have their number, right? They're 1-3 against the Clippers this year, and the Clippers just have the one power forward in the league that can intimidate Serge Ibaka and intimidate Kendrick Perkins, which no other team really has. Maybe Andrew Bynum might have something to say about that, though.
Well, we talked about the top of the Western Conference standings. Let's head down to the bottom, where Phoenix, Houston, and Utah are all within a half game of that last spot, and Dallas only a game and a half up for the 7th spot, the defending NBA champions. Greg, what do you see working out down there in the bottom, which was an area that the Grizzlies made a tremendous playoff run out of last year and could still be a very dangerous spot if the right team gets it?
I don't know about that, Will. I just don't see anybody at the bottom of this conference this year beating someone at the top, just because I think the Spurs, they learned their lesson from last year, and they're not going to run into a terrible matchup like they did with the Grizzlies last year, which was just a young team that was taking on a member of the old guard with injured Ginobili, who had the broken elbow. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. The bottom, like whoever makes it, good. I want to see Steve Nash get one more shot, okay, with the Suns, so I want to see him get the 8th seed. But honestly, I think whoever wins the 4 or 5 matchup, and right now it's Los Angeles Clippers against the Memphis Grizzlies.
Just subject to change at this point, as we just mentioned.
Yes, it is subject to change. But I think whoever wins that matchup, if it stays as is going to run the table all the way to the championship and lose to the Celtics.
All right, well, you're jumping ahead a little bit here. Alex, let's get your take on the bottom 4 seed, on the bottom 2 seeds with 4 teams in the Western Conference.
It's a pretty interesting little thing they got going on there with just everyone's so close in the seedings. But I like Denver at 6, Dallas at 7. I like Houston to sneak in at the 8th seed. They're a little bit behind right now, but they got a great wing scorer in Kevin Martin. Kyle Lowry's one of the most underrated point guards in the game. He's just a little worker. They got great role players coming off this bench. They got Terrence Williams, Chase Bunger, and they got Marcus Camby at the trade deadline. You know, they know how to score the ball too. They're 10th in the league at scoring. So as much as like Greg was saying, I'd love to see Steve Nash get another shot at this because he's been there for so long. He deserves another shot at it. I just think Houston has too much, and I think they bump him out of the 8th seed. I think Houston gets in the 8th seed.
All right, well, Western Conference playoffs, they will be set in about a week and a half or so. We will have more on that once that is finalized. For now, let's flip on over to the East Coast where the Celtics reside, currently as the number 4 seed, but there are many dangerous teams in the East, specifically the 1 seed Chicago Bulls, who have played much of the season without the injured Derrick Rose, the 2 seed Miami Heat, who of course have the big 3, and not to be forgotten is the Indiana Pacers at the 3 seed, who have been 9-1 in their last 10 games. So first, let's start off. Who are the dangerous teams in the Eastern Conference? Most people associate Chicago and Miami with Boston as a third trailer, but don't forget about the Pacers. Where do you guys see that all shaking out to?
Well, I see the East is clear-cut into subdivisions, okay, of the playoff teams. You got the surefire contenders that are recognized by the national media as contenders in the Heat and Bulls, okay? You got a contender in the Celtics, but you never know with their health And with their age, and they have a rough road to the championship. They're going to have to beat 3 very good teams just to get to the championship. And then you have the if we get hot teams. Okay, you got New York, you got Atlanta, and you got Indiana. And then you got the teams outside looking in, Philly, Orlando, and maybe Milwaukee. So that's how I see the East broken down into the subdivisions of the playoff teams.
No, I agree with you on that. There are definitely subdivisions, but also, like you said, the matchups in the playoffs matter a whole lot. And I'm huge on the Indiana Pacers. I love how they distribute the ball. They got 6 guys scoring more than 10 points. They got 2 guys who get 9 points a game. So they have a bunch of guys scoring the ball. They got Danny Granger up at 18 a game. He's clearly their leader. They have great size. Hibbert's huge, a 7'2" guy. Hansbrough, David West, they got great size, getting 43.7 boards a game. It's just too bad if the season were to end today, they'd end up against the Heat, who I don't think they match up well against at all. Heat can run you out of the gym really easily with D. Wade and the freight train LeBron James out there. But I think no matter what, I think this Eastern Conference goes through Chicago. As much as I'm a Celtics fan, as much as I love how they're playing right now, Tom Thibodeau has that team playing phenomenal defense. As long as Derrick Rose can get back to what we all know he can do, I think Eastern Conference has got to go through Chicago.
Clearly, Chicago has been the most solid team in the East throughout the year. But a team that you brought up, Greg, that I would really like to talk about is the New York Knicks, who this past Wednesday put on one of the most incredible shooting displays that I've ever seen, and a combined effort of a triple-double from Carmelo Anthony and 50 points combined off the bench from J.R. Smith and Steve Novak, who I believe broke into our studios and stole our championship belt. And what I want to know is, you both mentioned matchups. This team has Amari Stoudemire possibly coming back within the next week or two, and even a very outside chance of Jeremy Lin being healthy for the playoffs. Not something that they should count on, but is this a team that who has been playing fairly well ever since Mike Woodson took over, actually very well? Are they a team that can sneak up and maybe win a series or 2, or even find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, I just don't think so. I don't see it. I don't think they can shoot 19 for 32 from three-point land like they did last night, which was absolutely insane. You're never going to see it again this year. Okay, Carmelo had his second triple-double in his career. Okay, he's not going to do that again. Carmelo's not going to have the open shooters where he's just going to be like, oh man, Steve Novak is on fire tonight. J.R. Smith has that one game which he has every 2 or 3 years where you just want to see him shoot the ball. Right? And it only up being a half yesterday, but he always seems to he catches fire at times, you know.
But as a team, they do have a lot of firepower, but that very much depends on Amari's health as well, I would think.
Well, right now they're the 7th seed going up against the Heat. Now, I think they match up well against the Heat. I really do.
I agree.
But I just don't see LeBron's one of the best defenders in the league. He's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, especially with Dwight going down with back spasms or herniated disc or whatever he has. Chandler's also in the running for that. But I just see the Heat they just have a little more depth in terms of star power right now. The Knicks have more depth overall, but I think the Miami's big too, and the drama queen Chris Bosh, I think they'll overtake them.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Knicks could beat the Heat in the first round, but I think they could, because they have such great matchups with them. I think they could definitely give them problems. I like Shumpert guarding D. Wade. Shumpert plays some great perimeter defense. The point guard position is a wash anyways, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, Carmelo at least has the size to stay with LeBron. You know, I think if they can get hot like they showed against the Celtics, you know, they can win a couple games, but I don't think they have the firepower overall to take out a team like the Heat.
Now, I think the one thing about Carmelo sizing up well, matching up well against LeBron, is that Carmelo let up 43 points to Paul Pierce last night. Okay, Paul Pierce hasn't had a 40-point game since, 2006 or 2007. If Carmelo wants to play defense like that, LeBron is going to torch him.
Okay, really quickly before we move on, Eastern Conference Finals matchup, give me your 2 teams.
Heat and Celtics.
Bulls, Heat.
Bulls, Heat, all right. Do stay tuned to find out what shakes down in both the Western and Eastern Conferences. Now we'd like to take a moment and welcome our newest segment as we head on over to The Garbage Can with the beautiful Mark McDonough.
Hi everybody, I'm beautiful Mark McDonough. You might remember me from a few weeks ago on Around the Valley. Since then, every day at Amherst Media, thousands of gorgeous women have been lining up, demanding that I get back on TV. Well, finally, we appease them. I'm here to do a new segment each week, which we're calling The Garbage Can with beautiful Mark McDonough. The first induction into the garbage can is none other than Red Sox head coach Bobby Valentine. Bobby Valentine, I think he's been hit in the head with a few too many stray foul balls. Every time he smiles, you can tell something stupid is about to irradiate from his mouth. He looks permanently drunk, and he once claimed he invented the wrap sandwich, as in Buffalo Chicken and Chicken Caesar. He made the ludicrous claim that he created it. So what did the Red Sox front office do? In the offseason, they inexplicably hired him. His first order of business, sit down and talk with the struggling Carl Crawford? No, that would make too much sense. Instead, he decided to go on TV and verbally attack Derek Jeter, arguably the most respected player in the league. Great move, Bob. That could be okay, though, considering Yankee, arch rival. No big deal, right? Well, this past week, he goes on TV and insults All-Star and World Series champion Kevin Youkilis. Way to split the locker room and the fan base in the first 2 weeks of the season, Bob. Very Guillen-esque of you. I don't know if this guy has a medical condition where he can't shut his mouth, but it just doesn't seem to close. I think he needs to trade that bicycle and those tights in for a straight jacket, a muzzle, and that thing they wheel Hannibal Lecter in on. Somebody needs to fire this maniacal cartoon character before it's too late. So guess what, Bobby? This week, you're in the garbage can. Also, my second and final induction of the week is going to be the kid I saw wearing a Carlos Boozer Chicago Bulls jersey today. Were they out of Derrick Rose jerseys? Were they out of Luol Deng jerseys? The two guys that were All-Stars this season? The only thing that impressed me about you wearing the jersey was that you somehow managed to survive with all the rocks being thrown at your head. You picked the jersey of the guy that dyes his hair black and whose own kids cheer for the Miami Heat, your main rival. How terrible of a father do you have to be for your two young children to cheer for another team? Kid with the Carlos Boozer Chicago Bulls jersey, this week, you're in the garbage can. All right, thank you, everybody. That's my time. Back to you, Will.
All right, thank you, Mark, for that always flattering and unique take on the world of sports. I'm sorry, but that brings us to the end of our show, and as you know, I have to arbitrarily pick a winner, and today's winner is, X gonna give it to you, it's Greg Manakis.
Wow, I'm flattered, Will. Completely flattered. So is this my time where I can go off my rant?
This is your rant time.
Okay, well, if I have to rant about one thing, it's the Charlotte Bobcats. Okay, I know people were giving a lot of flack to the Washington Wizards earlier this year, saying that the Kentucky Wildcats might be able to beat them. I think the Kentucky Wildcats, with their 6 potential first-round draft picks, could take down Michael Jordan's Charlotte Bobcats of this year. Anthony Davis is going to be the best player on that team next year, and Michael Jordan, shame on you. You should not associate with your name, your legend, with such a pitiful organization, and for that, I'm taking away the belt from you, Michael. It's mine now.
All right, thank you, Greg, for your rant time on the always potent, on the always tangent Charlotte Bobcats. That's all the time we have today here on the only show that goes from ashy to classy. This has been Around the Valley. Please tweet us at ATV_Amherst. Until next time, I'm Will Weir. Thank you for joining us.